It's the eCommerce Master Plan podcast. Here to help you solve your marketing problems and grow your e-commerce business. Cutting through the hype to bring you inspiration and advice from the e-commerce sector and beyond. Here's your host, Chloe Thomas.
Hello, I know how much you just love to learn more about Google Ads and SEO, so you're really going to love this episode. Search is a crucial traffic source for e-commerce businesses. Between keyword ads, shopping ads and SEO, it's often the biggest chunk of traffic and sales. Somewhere we all spend a lot of time, poring over the results, writing the copy, getting the links, and on and on and on. But something we too frequently neglect is actually looking at what the search results look like. When did you last Google your top converting keyword and look at what the customer actually sees on that page? If it was less than a month ago, congratulations, you are very far above average in doing this. In this episode, we're going to be getting deep into what happens on those search results pages and how customers are using them to make their buying decisions. So this is definitely a must listen if you're spending any time or money on search traffic. Without the sponsors, the podcast wouldn't be possible, so please do check them out. This episode is brought to you by SendPro Online from Pitney Bowes. SendPro Online makes it easy to save time and money no matter what you ship or mail. Print shipping labels and stamps right from your desk. With the SendPro software, you can compare rates between shipping carriers and gain access to special USPS savings. Try it free for 30 days and get a free £10 scale, but only when you visit pb.com/masterplan. That's pb.com/masterplan. Today's guest expert is Adrian Rowe from RedC Marketing. Adrian is a lifelong, passionate direct marketer. He cut his teeth in the world of big catalogue marketing, so think of things like Great Universal, and for more than 2 decades has been leading the team at full-service marketing agency RedC, where he and his team have worked with many a high street and home shopping retailer to create more effective communications by getting under the skin of customers and prospects. If that doesn't convince you of his expertise, here's the social proof bit. He's been made an honorary Life Fellow of the Institute of Direct and Digital Marketing. That's the IDM here in the UK. Hello, Adrian.
Hi, Chloe. Thanks for having me on.
It's great to have you here, and I'm very excited to be talking about what we're going to be talking about.
Excellent.
So I've just given the listeners a very quick intro about you. But before we get into the lessons from your recent search research, can you tell us a little bit more about you? How did you get started in e-commerce?
Sure. Well, as you alluded in your very kind introduction, you could say that I've always been in e-commerce because I started in marketing pre-internet. And my early career was spent in home shopping companies. So, as a marketeer using catalogues and databases to market to customers, a lot of those catalogers were the earliest adopters of e-commerce, Chloe. So many of the principles of relationship marketing are just the same online as they are offline.
I know exactly what you mean. Having started out with the wonderful world of catalogues myself, it's so many relatable skills. And in some ways, it feels like the internet's just catching up with some of the cool stuff we did back with paper.
Yeah, I get a sense of deja vu very often in meetings. And then, sort of obviously when the digital revolution came along, we as an agency, RedC, we launched our digital services as part of RedC back in 1998, I think. We created a standalone division at that time called the Web Engine Room. But since then we brought, we found we were sending, an offline account handler and an online account handler to every meeting. And we found it made a lot more sense to bring it all back in and become integrated. So, since then we brought digital services back into the main agency for or at least 15 years and now accounts of maybe 70% of what we work on. Not obviously all for e-commerce companies though.
Yeah, and it's I always think that's one of the as a former agency owner myself, I often have kind of like this, should you go for specialist or should you go for someone who can do multiple things? Because there's kind of those pros and cons to both, isn't there? From the full service to the standalone channel, and also from the we only do e-commerce to the we explore other industries. Because I think on that front in particular, if you've got someone who's looking at other industries, they're learning things that they could bring over that could put you ahead of your competition because no one else knows about them yet.
Absolutely. I learn things, on work for our travel and tourism clients or our financial services clients that are, easily transferable skills to the e-commerce sector and vice versa. E-commerce very often is at the forefront of, developing online digital skills and services.
Yeah, I could personally talk to you about industry ideas and cross learnings and agency strategies for, quite frankly, the rest of the morning. But I think that'd probably be bad news for the listeners because that's not what they've tuned in for. So the reason I've got you here today is the report that RedC have just published about how consumers use the search results pages. I have a copy of it in my hand now, and it is gold dust. It has not, since I got my hands on it a few weeks back, it has not been further than arm's reach of my desk slightly. Is that embarrassing? No, I think that's a good thing because there's so much in it.
It's well thumbed, is it? Yeah.
It's very well thumbed, yeah. And as I mentioned to Adrian just before we started recording, I've also tidied the office since I got my hands on that report. And
well done.
Whilst there are indeed, you should have seen it. Whilst there are many things that I cannot find anymore now that I've tidied, the Secret Life of Search even report is not one of them. So in my opinion, anyone spending money on Google Ads or investing time or money in SEO would be crazy not to read it and have a copy on their desk at all times.
That's very kind of you.
Well, yeah, you can take that quote if you want.
I will. I'll take that, Chloe.
But I honestly mean it. As I think all of, as you're listening to this podcast, you're going to understand exactly why I think that as we carry on through. Now, I want to get us into a few of the key lessons from it in a moment. But before we do that, like all good marketers, I like to know where the data is coming from. So, Adrian, before we get into the outcomes of the report, I suppose, the real gold dust bits, can you tell us a bit about why and how you went about creating this report?
Well, in terms of the why, obviously, as digital marketers and a full service marketing agency, we work on a lot of search marketing, Chloe. We work on PPC campaigns, on SEO, on content marketing for a range of companies. So we've got a lot of data. We're not short of data from AdWords, from analytics and so on that tells us what people do in the search interface, but it doesn't necessarily tell us why they do it. And as you well know, the Google search interface is constantly evolving. We felt that in terms of sort of why we went into this study, we felt that if we could understand the why better, why people do what they do in the search interface, we could give our clients a real advantage. But we looked around, sort of more than 9 months ago now, and there wasn't a lot of independent research, independent evidence available. Lots of opinions, not so much data, not so much evidence.
It is a weirdly neglected area, isn't it? What actually happens on the search page. We spend so much time looking at the data and our own ads. We very rarely look at where they're appearing, which in the world of print, if we were putting some print ads together, we'd be all about, where on the page is it going to be?
Absolutely.
Are we bottom right corner, bottom left corner? We got a full page. What's the actual experience of the user going to be? And we seem to neglect that in search.
Absolutely. So we really wanted, having discovered a lack of research evidence out there, we felt that given that we've got in-house eye tracking facilities, which we use for, a whole range of different types of research, we felt that maybe we should do the study ourselves. So that's really the why of how, what we did. How we went about it, we actually, we interviewed, I think, first of all, to explain that eye tracking is essentially it's a qualitative research tool, not a quantitative one. So we ended up doing just over 60 interviews, I think 66 eye tracking interviews. We combined that with pre and post sort of questionnaire, pre and post sort of typical, interview to find out. So we looked at what people were doing in the on the eye tracking interface, and then we asked them afterwards why they did it. We were able to combine those two sort of inputs to get much better sense of how people were using the Google search interface, what they were doing, and why they were doing it. That crucial piece of evidence that was missing for us, the why.
Excellent. So, right, now we all know what the report looked at. I think we have to let the listener know now what you actually found, don't we? Because I think that's for me, the amazing thing about the report. And it is subtitled 10 Standout Strategies for Search Success. And, the reason I said I think this should be on the desk at all times is because it is like a little Bible to keep referring back to for ideas of new things you could test, but also ideas for how you could make what you're already doing in search better. Rather than me regurgitate the whole thing, Adrian, because you've been living and breathing this for a while now. Do you want to give us a couple of the kind of key standout strategies for e-commerce businesses that come out of the report? Absolutely.
Well, there were lots of things that we learnt that we weren't surprised about, but they gave us they gave us a much better understanding of why people behaved the way they did. But there were several things. I would consider myself a pretty experienced search marketer, but there were several things that really surprised me.
Let's go with the surprises then. That sounds like a good place to start.
Okay. Surprise number one then, Chloe. The overwhelming click choice given to trusted, familiar, credible brands. So, we've made that number one in the report, brand trust. I kind of knew, that sort of well-known, well-trusted brands would have an advantage in the search interface. I don't think any of us realised just how big an advantage that was until we actually did the research. Something like, over 80% of all the clicks that we observed and that we eye tracked across all of the sectors, and when we did, a dozen or so different market sectors, over 80% were on trusted brands, familiar brands.
We're saying on that front, just to make sure that the listener fully gets this, we're saying that if someone was searching for, party food, for example, and M&S is there, Marks and Spencer's, and someone they've never heard of is there, the great majority of the time they're going to click on Marks and Spencer's, no matter where it is on that first view, just because they recognise the brand.
Absolutely. So it's an easier. We're all looking for shortcuts in our lives, aren't we? And especially on the Google search results interface, we're definitely looking for shortcuts. And if we can see, if we're looking for some, a product, we can see a brand that we trust, that we've used before, that we've seen advertised on the TV, then it's an easier click decision to go and take a look at what they've got.
So I guess that's kind of the multi-channel marketing bonus coming into the search results, isn't it? It's if you are sending your customers emails on a regular basis, you're on social media in front of them on a regular basis, you're doing magazine ads, you're doing maybe postal mailings, you're doing TV ads, then that increase in brand recognition will pay off when they're looking for something you sell.
It definitely will. It definitely will. It's all about what you do away from the search results interface that influences the way people behave when they're interacting with their Google search results.
And was there any difference between ads versus natural listings on that front? Or is it exactly the same kind of impact?
It is exactly the same. I mean, one of the other things that we saw, which really surprised us, was how interrelated the PPC text ads, the Google Shopping, the organic results, they're all working together. Even, perhaps images that appear, they're working together to increase the likelihood that a customer will choose your brand, or a searcher will choose your brand to investigate rather than another one. So it's actually, it's becoming, because Google's able to present such a sophisticated array of different types of results to you, the way they work together is really important.
So, I mean, I'm sure you've had the debate with clients as many times, probably far more times than I have, of do you or do you not bid on your own brand name? And the argument is, it's an insurance policy and it gives you a greater ownership of the search results page pixels, I suppose, the space on the page. Is that where this benefit comes from being interrelated? Come on, Chloe. Interrelated search results in terms of if you're coming up in multiple different places, be it maps, be it product listing ads, be it natural, that gives you more space and therefore you're more likely to get the click? Or is it that they're seeing you more often, therefore that brand recognition goes up?
It's a bit of both. I would recommend that you always bid on your own brand terms, because typically they are the final click in a sort of a multi-click search journey. So you might start by, looking for party dresses, and look at some of the, search results, or, men's denim shirts, look at some of the search results, get an idea of who's got offers that you might be interested in. Then potentially click on a familiar brand. You might then go to that website, have a look around, maybe come back again, look at some others. But eventually you're going to key in the brand name and you're going to convert on the brand name. So not maximizing your real estate by, running paid search ads for your own brand is a crazy decision, really.
I'm glad we're in agreement on that one. Okay, we were working our way through the surprises. So what's surprise number 2 for you from the report?
Well, I think for e-commerce brands, the influential impact of Google Shopping is a really big. It's possibly expected that Google Shopping performs well. We're seeing the proportions of Google Shopping amongst e-commerce brands growing, but the degree to which it influences other clicks. So, to a certain extent with eye tracking, one of the things that we can do is we can measure attention and we can measure action. So we can identify what people looked at and how much time they spent looking at it within the eye tracking interface. But we can also then look at what they acted on, what they clicked through on in this case. And one of the things that Google Shopping clearly influenced was the degree of attention given to a particular brand or a particular product or a particular style, even if it didn't earn the click. So we saw a lot of evidence that Google Shopping was influencing paid search clicks, organic clicks. It was influencing a whole range of different behaviours.
So a customer might search on, say, red dress, and they're seeing text ads and organic results for, say, ASOS and Marks and Spencers or something. And then but they're looking at the Google Shopping campaign results, those pictures of the products, seeing M&S and ASOS there, and then that's what's influencing what they end up clicking on.
Yes.
Is that what we're saying? Wow.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've done 2 surprises so far. Takeaways from that are that investment in other marketing and brand awareness increases the click-through rate on your search results, which is pretty cool. We've had kind of like the bonus tip that you need to be bidding on your brand, which, hey, I'm converted. I was already converted, but hey, hopefully we've converted a few more people to join us in this. And then the second one was that the simple appearance of your products in the Google Shopping campaign results section of the search results leads to greater numbers of clicks on your other search listing pieces, so your ads and your SEO. Now that's some pretty awesome takeaways already, but have you got one more of these surprises or one more top takeaway from the report before we head in to the top tips round?
Yes, absolutely. I'll give you one more that's highly relevant for e-commerce brands, and it's about the degree to which people use visual aids within the search interface to search. So, Google's interface constantly evolving, throwing in featured snippets and shopping and so on, and the image pack, midway down the interface, all of. We found, particularly for the e-commerce searches, that a lot of searchers, particularly if they weren't sure quite what they wanted, were using a visual sort of search aid as a discovery tool. There were 2 or 3 ways that they did that. One of the big surprises for me was how many of our respondents, how many of our research respondents actually clicked on either the shopping tab or the images tab. So we had perhaps, female respondents looking for a party dress who would click on the images tab or the shopping tab and then look for a style that suited them. When they, so they would use visual discovery. They would use the images tab as a discovery tool. Then they would identify a style that suited them. Then they would go back to the search interface to actually search more on a refined search term with that style. So we had, across 90 odd e-commerce searches, we had something like 14% of searchers chose either the shopping or the images tab. So if you're not optimizing your Google shopping feeds, if you're not alt tagging and optimizing your images, then you're missing out on a big potential extra source of traffic, source of highly qualified traffic, really.
Wow, so customers actually use those tabs.
Yeah.
I just assumed nobody did.
So did I. Because I would never think to do it, but of course, I'm not typical of, the customers that we're acting on. The fatal mistake, Chloe, that we're always in danger of making as marketeers is to assume everybody thinks like us. And I would say, clearly, in fact, I've got to be honest. When we were doing this research, I was seeing people do some, employ some search strategies. I thought, that's really clever. I'm going to do that. That was very, very interesting.
That's the interesting thing, isn't it? In this instance, whereas usually we assume, certainly on the web, we assume customers will put up with more pain than normal. So we kind of assume they're cleverer than normal, I guess would be our normal set of online assumptions. In this case, both you and I are assuming the consumer is not as sophisticated as they are, which is an interestingly different approach to assumptions.
They kept telling us, I've recently discovered the shopping tab. I've recently discovered featured snippets, or people also ask box. They were telling us about things that they were coming to, finding them useful, depending on what, in their search strategy and their discovery strategy, and then just, sort of employing them in their armory of search techniques. It's quite amazing.
E-commerce Master Plan is supported by some of the greatest companies in the e-commerce sector. Here's a reminder of who they are.
Are you paying too much to send out packages and letters? Wouldn't it be nice to have a solution that can give you the lowest rates? With SendPro Online, it's easy to save time and money no matter what you send, from packages to overnights and letters. Easily compare USPS, UPS and FedEx rates all in one online tool. Gain access to special USPS savings for letters and priority mail shipping. Print shipping labels and stamps from your own printer. Track all of your shipments and get email notifications when they've arrived. SendPro Online is only $14.99 per month, and for being an e-commerce master plan listener, you can get a free 30-day trial to get you started, plus a free £10 scale to help you accurately weigh your packages. Visit pb.com/masterplan to access this special offer. That's pb.com/masterplan. Experience the better way to ship with a free trial of SendPro Online.
It's time for the top tips round.
I love this section because it gives me and our listeners some really quick ideas for taking our businesses to the next level. So, Adrian, here we go. First up, the book top tip. If everyone listening to this podcast agrees to take Friday off and read a book to make their business better, which book, other than your search report, would you recommend?
It's an easy one. I'm going to recommend a book by one of the greatest ad men that this country's ever produced, a guy called John Steele. And the book is called Perfect Pitch. It's not about e-commerce or online. It's about the art of selling ideas and winning new business. Because let's face it, whatever sector we're in, whether we're a startup or a big established business, we all have to make presentations and articulate ideas to other people and persuade people to come along with you. John Steele's book, Perfect Pitch, is absolutely brilliant for that. It opens up with when he met Steve Jobs and how Steve Jobs was able to articulate an idea. And it finishes, the last chapter is about how the bid team for the London Olympic bid team won the bid for the 2012 Olympics when Paris was the sort of far and away the favourite. It's a fascinating case study. The whole book is brilliant. You'll come away full of ideas for how to pitch ideas and persuade people of your point of view.
That sounds absolutely fascinating. I love the fact you've just pitched it incredibly well.
It's a great book, and I recommend it to everybody. I even made it part of our book club last year because I wanted more people in the agency to read it.
Okay, then the traffic top tip. Which marketing method do you either prize above all others or think doesn't get the press it deserves?
Well, not surprisingly, Chloe, given the conversation that we've had, I would thoroughly recommend Google Shopping for any e-commerce company. It is really, really powerful if you optimize your data feeds well and don't just measure the direct conversions from Google Shopping, measure the click-assisted conversions, the impression-assisted conversions. You'll soon get an idea of how Google Shopping punches above its weight.
And I love the fact that ties back into one of the takeaways from the report we discussed earlier. Always nice when it links up.
Yeah.
Okay,
Perfect.
the tool top tip then. Maybe a collaboration tool, a social media plugin, a phone app, or just a way of working. Is there a cool little tool you use that makes you and your team more efficient from day to day?
There is. I'm going to go old school on you, Chloe, and I'm going to recommend as a tool an A3 layout pad and a Sharpie pen. Not because I'm a wannabe art director or designer, but it's something I take into every meeting where, I'm sitting collaborating with the team. We map out ideas with a Sharpie. We'll then all, copy it and sort of take it away and work it up, or you'll map out, perhaps some PowerPoint slides. A3 layout pad and a Sharpie pen. Always have one with you.
Excellent advice, and I love the old school tips advice. You should see the amount of time I spend scribbling on pieces of paper. The growth top tip then. If you met someone today who's focused on growing their e-commerce business from 100 orders per month to 1,000, what would be your number one tip for them?
Walk a mile in the customer's shoes. I've lost count of the number of times that we've become a customer for a brand that we are working on or, are considering using our agency. And we've discovered that the customer experience isn't remotely what the marketing team is that think it is. So, I would recommend for any business wanting to grow that the first thing they do is literally shake off all their preconceptions, go online and place an order and see how that order is delivered through the post or whatever. Walk a mile in the customer's shoes.
Another great piece of advice. Well, Adrian, before we say goodbye, could you please let the listeners know where they can find you and your business and that marvellous report on the web and social media, please?
Of course. The Secret Life of Search white paper is available free to download on our website. So you can find us at redcmarketing.com, and that's the letter C, redcmarketing.com. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on YouTube. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Adrian Rowe, R-O-W-E. And you can also find the Secret Life of Search slides on SlideShare too. So if you search for RedC Marketing on SlideShare, you'll also get the slide version of the white paper.
Marvellous. Well, look, Adrian, thank you so much for being on the e-commerce master plan podcast today. It's been very nice chatting to you, as it always is. And it's been great to be able to share a few of those takeaways from the marvellous report with the listeners. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chloe.
I hope you found that as fascinating as I did. Please do go and grab yourself a copy of the report because it is well worth a read and a mull over because it's going to influence your search strategies, paid and organic, for many months, possibly years to come. To get your hands on the notes from today's show, including the top tips, links, and details of related episodes, then head over to ecommercemasterplan.com/podcast, or just go to the website, click on the podcast tab, or use the search box. There you will also find details of how to get your hands on the report. If you're listening via Apple Podcast or iTunes, then please do give us some feedback via their review app, because it's always nice to find out what you hear about the show. Have a great week and keep optimizing.
Thank you for listening to the eCommerce Masterplan podcast. Find out more at ecommercemasterplan.com/podcast.